So what do you guys see in this piece? I'm thinking that this flat end is going to be the bottom edge, but in the comments just chuck down anything you can see. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Today I want an easy one. For a number of reasons, I just need a little bit of a layup, so we're looking at this one. This is one sent over from Pulitzer Opal on YouTube. Incredible channel, very generous. Here he sent me this little chunk of Coober Pedy 23 mile. Now this was part of a bundle which included a bunch of Mintabees, but this one is the cleanest and I don't see any flaws or imperfections, and we get a nice little disco party. So all we're going to do on this one is just minimal shaping, and I do want to be able to set it into a pendant or a ring at the end. So we are going to need to do a little bit of shaping, but not too much. I'll still keep it fairly freeform, and I'm just spinning it around now to have a look at the faces, the possible faces. And to be honest, any direction would go incredibly well. It's almost Ethiopian-like, with its fingers of colour running straight through the stone and then terminating on the face like this. Pretty good. A few tiny little potchy sections, we might be able to just carve those out. But otherwise we have a hell of a stone here, certainly gem grade, and we're just going to tizzy it up, and I reckon it's going to end up facing somewhere in this direction here. That'll give us the biggest face of the stone. I do like these angles, or especially this angle here, but that is a very narrow edge. So unfortunately we're going to have to go for something more like this, or maybe something more like this. We'll tidy it up and we'll see what it looks like. But either way, spin up the Dremel, let's go. And away we go, yellow band, 600 grit sintered diamond. I don't want to go any coarser than that because we've fully exposed the bar. We're just getting rid of sand pockets here and there. Some were a little bit deeper, so if I'm honest, I probably could have gone with something more like a 240 grit. Definitely didn't need to go all the way to the 80 grit. I've been doing a lot of Mintabee lately. Mintabee, you don't mess around. You jump from the 80 grit, you work your way up to the 600 grit. Coober Pedy, it's pretty forgiving stuff, it's pretty soft, and the sand itself is very soft. So really, just to get rid of all these edges and shape it and get rid of all these inclusions, the 600 grit is fast enough. If you're in a real rush, yes you can go lower, but remember you're going to risk doing a lot more chipping. The 600, tiny chips if any at all. It's a lot safer, so when in doubt, start off with the 600. If you're not too sure, if you're not great at judging which one you should go for, just start with the 600. Goes too slowly, who cares? Just drop down, go to the 240, drop all the way back to the 80 if you really misjudge it. But never feel too bad starting off with the 600. And with Coober Pedy, you can get away with just running with the 600 the whole time. And here you can see I'm just digging in deep. Some of these sand spots were a little deeper than I thought. I didn't use the torch X-ray vision on it, because I thought it was a lot cleaner and I kind of misjudged that, but it doesn't matter, it just took a couple minutes longer than I thought. And here you can see I'm just going through and nipping off all of the edges. We want to keep the nova points as safe as humanly possible, and just rounding off a lot of these bottom parts. And when I'm dunking it and putting it in the water like that, what I'm looking at is the edge to make sure that there's no little jagged bits, because I want to go over to the 280 grit. And you'll notice here, I'll just show the 280 black, but this is part of the 4 kit and I went through the full 4 as per usual. The black, you'll notice the shape of it is pretty pointy and pretty worn out. This one is getting towards the end of life. Eventually that little mandrel in the middle is going to poke through, and you've got to change it before that happens because that metal will scratch the surface of whatever stone you're working on at the time. It's really bad, it's happened to me once and I'll never let it happen again. But you can see here, I'm just hitting the whole stone. One thing I will warn people on for the nova points is to avoid getting so worn out like this, because you should see the 600. The 600 in comparison from this same 4-pack is hardly worn at all. The reason this 280 is so worn is, one, the more abrasive ones do degrade a lot faster. Like the 80 grit is really fast, it will disappear pretty quick. You'll actually see it disappearing in front of your eyes. But the other thing is, when I started out, and it's a bit of a bad habit that I've still carried to this day, I overwork the 280 grit. So either I'll go with it for too long, or I won't have prepared the stone as well as I really could have with the 600. I always say that you can do some minor shaping with the 280, but that is honestly a pretty bad habit of mine. You want to do all of that shaping with the 600, and you really just want to use the 280, just brush over all the surfaces, get rid of the scratches from the hard burr, and then you're setting yourself up with a good base to get through to a final polish. I do a bit too much shaping with the 280 even now. So I have learnt, and it is a lot better than it was. So it is going to save me a lot of money in 280 grit Nova points, but it is something to keep an eye on. When you're beginning, you'll have no idea, but once you get used to it, you'll realize you do need to be a bit more careful with them and use them a lot less than you do originally. And then, of course, I'm finishing it off with the Super Cerium Oxide, though I don't know if I would call it finished off, because I want to do a little bit more work on this stone, and you guys can help with that. So in a minute, you'll find out why. I might have put it at the start of the video as well, so by all means, feel free to comment at any point in time. I just want some ideas of where to go from this, because I've got an idea in my mind, but you guys, there might be a couple hundred people that watch this and you'll definitely have a better idea, so let me know. Wow, what gemmy material. Now, I might chuck this at the front of the video as well, but I want to pivot on this one. So what do you guys see in this piece? I'm thinking that this flat end is going to be the bottom edge, but in the comments, just chuck down anything you can see. I just want to canvas some ideas before I go crazy and do my idea. I'll explain it anyway. So what I'm seeing here, because I want to make this flat end here the bottom, I just want to shape it so that this is the head facing on a slight angle downwards. Arm, two little feet, my favorite animal, the penguin. So I feel like I could make this into a little fairy penguin or little penguin or whatever they're called now. I'll give you guys a good rotation of the rest of the stone, just so that you guys can get some inspiration. It doesn't even have to be in this direction, could be around the other way. The back end here is pretty flat, as you can see, and the bottom edge here is pretty flat. And it's a cool little polished up piece like this, but it's kind of like that tumble polish when you just get the inclusions out and then you polish it up. That's basically what I've done here, but I think this is too good an opportunity to do a bit of an artistic carving, which I'm not necessarily good at, but cheating with a photo up on the screen while I do the carving and, of course, texturing it on beforehand like a stencil, I should be pretty alright with penguins. It's a pretty basic shape. And I can see it in my head exactly what this penguin's going to look like, so that should help me out. Now, to do these kind of artistic carvings, what I recommend is that people use these little guys. So these are tiny little electroplated ones. I mean, look at the size of my finger. Actually, I'll get one of my sintered diamonds out. People are always surprised at how small the sintered diamonds are, but when you get yourself these tiny ones, there's a sintered diamond. There's those tiny little burrs. So these ones are little ball ones, there's straight narrow ones. These tiny little things, I typically use them for drilling holes and also for doing, I've done a bit of letter work and stuff, so just engraving names and stuff basically into opal, just for a few custom pieces that I've done. Tiny little burrs. Very useful when you want to carve a penguin into a stone, which is what I want to do with this one. So I don't know, unless people have a better idea, which is definitely possible. I'm not the most creative and artistic guy ever. That's probably why I've gone knee-jerk reaction straight into penguin mode. Mostly because I really want a penguin and it gives me a good excuse to make a gem grade penguin. This one, I mean, you could easily just cab this one up and cut off what will be the head. And if you look at it like this, you could get a nice little oval or something in there. By all means, that's perfectly fine and a reasonable choice, but it's not the one I want to go with. And you know what? If I can do it successfully, this will be a keeper for life. I can chuck it with the rest of the Pulitzer pieces. Here they are currently, so nice little bits of Mintaby mostly. These will be set in the near future. I'm just keeping them in a nice little suspension container, and I'll chuck him with them for now. But he'll be back and hopefully looking a little bit more interesting. I mean, it's a beautiful gem. Maybe I'll give it a flip around. Beautiful gem, beautiful crystal. Got all those little inclusions out. Some of them were pretty annoying. They were much deeper than I thought, some of those sand ones. But got them all out and this is the final shape. And I don't know, sometimes shapes call out to me, this one doesn't. So thinking I might go a bit artistic with it. Catch you in the next video, which is most likely some Mintaby because I'm still working on 2 stones from Pulitzer. And then we'll see what we ended up with through all of the stones that he sent recently. Catch you around, guys.